Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning into the podcast. I just want to take a moment to mention the podcast sponsor, retrogamestore.com.au. Head over there for all your Game Boy refurbish and repair needs. Screens, shells, buttons, and all the bits and pieces. And there's a complete custom build made to order service as well. Also, plenty more retro gaming goodness like video cables, display stand and power supplies, controllers, etc. And you can add the code PixelPie at checkout to get 10% off your order. Also, take a moment to say if you enjoyed this episode and haven't already, give it a subscribe or follow and a review where you can. And maybe you want to recommend the Pixel Pie podcast to anyone you know that would enjoy it. That'd be really appreciated. So thanks for listening, and now let's get on with the show.
G'day, I'm Shachir, also known as Takogamesaustralia. You're listening to the Pixel Pie podcast.
Hello, Shachir. How are you?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you.
That's good. That's good. Fully up front, this has been a bit of an interesting afternoon. We've had a few little comms issues and me running rickety kind of hardware and stuff, but that's the cost of a $36 studio, I guess. So thank you for your time and patience. I know I woke you up from a bit of a nap.
Oh, my pleasure.
Anywho, so let's talk about you, not me and my slack ass stuff. Taco Games Australia, Instagram and Twitch streamer, and just sort of going off your little Instagram spiel. Always buying, sometimes selling, and hoping to find treasure. I think that probably, tells me something about
Sums you. Sums me up pretty well.
Yeah, what it tells me about you is that you're always looking for things, but you're also willing to sell things. But some things you'll keep around, but other things they're gone. You don't need them in your collection.
You make it sound worse than it is. I still miss the things that I've sold sometimes.
Yeah, we all have regrets. But in saying that, let me just list off the consoles. So you're a Game Boy lover, you're a Game Boy player, you're a streamer, you do some speed running, you are a collector. But let me just list off, I think, probably most of the consoles that you own. And these are things that you keep: a NES, a SNES, a Neo Geo, a Dreamcast, Super Famicom, several Game Boys, a Neo Geo arcade cabinet, a NES top loader, PSP, WonderSwan, and GameCube. You do keep things, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, there's probably a few more that you've forgotten, but PS Vita. I love the PS Vita.
Oh, and the Vita. Let me put that on your list too. Yeah, it's a funny little sort of forgotten handheld altogether, really, isn't it? But its time will shine.
I don't know why people say it's forgotten. Like, for me, it was like I bought it when it came out. I kept seeing them in stores. It was forgotten in the way that it was hard to find games for it. But apart from that, like, I always had one, always played it.
So a little bit like the GameCube too. I've recently, when I say recently, it's been a month or a couple of months now, acquired a GameCube and put the GC loader in it, and I just like I said, I don't own a Switch. Probably this Christmas, due to Metroid Dread, I'll own a Switch. But I
can't wait for that, by the way.
Yeah, me either. We'll talk some more about that. But having recently acquired like a Wii U and just before that a GameCube, I can't believe that sometimes those two consoles just sort of, maybe the real Nintendo fans still love them, but on the wider market, it seems like they just were so grey. And I'm like, but they're just so beautiful. Like, I was recently given a little 14-inch CRT, and I've sat here and just watched maybe 15 GameCube intros in a row. And
I can hear like the game, like when you start up the GameCube and it does the logo. It's like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So good. So streaming, that's probably your primary kind of game time, I guess, these days. Do you want to take us a little bit through, I guess, kind of what got you streaming and why you sort of do it and keep doing it and what sort of business?
Well, let's cut back to 2020 and the global pandemic hitting. Not that we want to really remind people of the the year that was.
Some of us are still living it. You're in lockdown at the moment, aren't you? That's how I got you out of bed.
I feel like I never left. We're all looking for things to do to fill the time, especially here. I was essentially inside for 8 months. It was a long time. And yeah, I mean, I got all these games. I got the means to play them all. And then I started finding people on Twitch myself. And I saw that, there's like, if you look hard enough, you can find like some cool people that are just playing the games and enjoying them and just want to enjoy them with you. And I was like, yeah, this is really cool. So I thought I can do the same thing because I got a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't really know about or haven't had the chance to play themselves. So I started slowly picking up TVs, and then I made myself a computer that was able to do all of the streaming, and piece by piece I managed to get it all together. I even like traded games and bought and sold stuff to get like my capture card. I remember I bought the capture card in this lot off the marketplace, and it came with like 2 copies of Splatterhouse 2 for Sega Mega Drive.
Oh, really?
And the dude wanted like $100, and I was like, oh, sick. So I sold 1 copy of Splatterhouse 2 for $100, which paid for the whole lot. Kept a copy, got a capture card, and I'm like, ready to go.
yeah, win-win. I did something similar when I bought my Mega Drive. It came with a good stack of maybe 15 games, but most of them were sports games. And
I hate that.
Yeah, and I was like, I enjoy like international rugby. Go to Wallabies tonight. Hopefully, it's about all I do because I only have to watch like 6 games a year, sort of thing, which is really great. Unless it's a World Cup. But yeah, I'm not into sports games. So when I bought my Mega Drive for like $130, I sold like 10, 12 games for like $130.
Yeah, you're like, if I can get like $10 a piece, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Mega Drive.
I just sold them all to one dude, and he's like, man, my brothers and I grew up on these. So yeah, I know that feeling really of coming out on top. So in saying that, then I have so many questions about streaming, just like the sort of the hardware side behind it, because I think it seems difficult, and I'm sure it has its challenges. But at the same time,
it does.
Once it's going, it's nice and clean. But I always wonder.
No, it's not.
Okay, it's always a challenge.
But that's a software issue, to be honest, in my personal experience.
What I wonder the most about someone like yourself that streams older retro games, does your collecting and what you buy and what you pay your hard-earned money for, is that affected by the fact that you're looking to stream it, or do you still buy what you want 100% go, I could also stream that?
Yeah, it's definitely a selfish collection and hobby. I'm looking for games that I like, because everyone and their dog on Twitch is like, Zelda Skyward Sword. I'm sure if you go to Twitch right now, you'd find 1,000 people playing Zelda and Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like even because like some people would do it because it's popular, some people would do it because they love Zelda and all the different reasons. Yeah. But I'm like, what have I got? I picked up this game here, which is, it's known as Wonder Boy in English, but it's the original Japanese one.
Right.
Takahashi Meijin Adventure Island.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, I want to buy this game because I want to play it. It's difficult. I want to see if I can beat it.
Yeah, right.
Please watch me if you want to watch me suffer.
Yeah. And you do suffer. What was I watching you play a few weeks ago? Oh, well, I mean, you speedrun Super Ghosts and Goblins. Like, if you haven't suffered yet, then I don't know. That
was suffering.
Pseudo-masocism, or however you say it. That's crazy.
That game it's beautiful. It's so good. And it's so cruel. Oh man. Yeah.
I want to be good at any Ghosts and Goblins, whether it be the arcade. I've played the Super Ghosts and Goblins here in my house. Ghosts and Goblins on the Game Boy Color is really nice, and actually it's like, I'm not an expert, but it translates quite well.
I'm waiting to play that one. I have the means to like I could just get the ROM and play it, but I like waiting till I own the game of ones that I really want to play, and especially like Ghosts and Goblins. It took me a while, but I found the Game Boy Advance version, which is similar to. It's pretty much the same as Super Ghouls and Ghosts,
Right. Yeah.
Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what's probably been the most obscure? How do I say this? The most obscure game, but something that people would recognize if they saw it. Like this other there seems to be this sort of River City Ransom thing that seems to have popped back up. It's like, oh, I know what that is, but no one really ever did.
Yeah, that's funny. Like that's happening really often. I'd say in this year particularly, like a lot of companies have, like the companies say like limited run games and
Love it.
strictly limited games, all the ones that are like reproducing old IPs.
Yeah.
They've kind of found their niche now, and they're going for those old titles that were classics. I say classics, like whether they were in Japan or in the West.
Yeah.
And they're hard to find games. They're expensive games. And now they're re-releasing them, and it's really exciting. Like they've made new Blaster Master games. They've made new Cotton.
All right.
The Shoot 'em up shooter.
Yeah.
All these. And I got an email the other day that one of those companies has signed on Natsume, the publisher, and Natsume make really good games like Pocky and Rocky.
Oh gosh,
I'm sure you've heard of that game.
I love that. It's probably, as far as just age between like sort of the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo, it's probably my favorite game. It just this, and like I know some people that are just like Super Nintendo nuts because they say a Mega Drive sounds like junk in a can and whatever. I'm not a fanboy, but Pocky and Rocky,
really?
Yeah, Pocky and Rocky is just this perfect blend of just looks great, sounds awesome. I know you and I have also talked a bit about Studio Ghibli, and my daughter and I recently watched Pompoko, which is all about the raccoons that kind of can shapeshift and protect. They're trying to protect the hill.
Tanukis.
Yeah, and so now when I play Pocky and Rocky, I'm like, there's more to that little dude than you first think, because he's like a little raccoon. So good. Sorry to interrupt, but it puts a grin on my face whenever I see or hear or smell anything about Pocky and Rocky.
Yeah, so those it's really good to see that they've managed to get a hold of that publisher specifically. So I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of really good, hard to find old games come out for things like the Nintendo Switch in the future.
It's interesting that you sort of mentioned, I'm going to write that down. What was it? Natsume.
Natsume.
NAT.
If you want to find like good retro games, just look at that publisher like on Wikipedia and just go through that list, because you'll be like, oh man, they make Harvest Moon, they make Pocky and Rocky, they make a lot of old ninja games for like the Famicom.
Yeah, it's when you find a style, it's a bit like finding a director that you really kind of enjoy and sort of looking at the films they've made and sort of going, you know what, this guy actually has got a lot more for me than just freaking like Tarantino. I've been watching a bit of lately. I have to turn my head, but at the same time, there's some storytelling that is just, you can't get that anywhere else.
It's really compelling. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's a real train crash.
I was really hesitant, like when I was younger, to watch Tarantino specifically for those reasons. Like I don't do well with like gore violence.
Yeah.
But when I did finally watch one or two of them, I was like, oh man, like even though there is this stuff in it that I don't like watching, I'm really enthralled. And I'm like, it's really good storytelling.
Yeah. Like I think most people probably watch like Pulp Fiction and like Inglourious Bastards and Reservoir Dogs, but I recently watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Death Proof, and both those movies I had a really great time. I shouldn't have in some moments. I did not enjoy those moments, but after I was like, that's those movies that I wish I could just erase from my memory and just rewatch. And
get to enjoy it for the first time.
Yeah. It's like a first date that went really well kind of thing.
I've talked about that specific feeling with games. I'm like, oh man, this game was so good from start to finish.
There's a market.
I wish I could forget and then go play it again.
it's like the opposite to the concept of Total Recall. You don't put the memories in their brain, you take the memories out.
Yeah. I'm sure there is a market there. It'll happen eventually.
Yeah, well, it's just every time you swipe right, I'm sure it just takes a little piece of your brain. So it's working. It's fine. They're doing it without us even knowing. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sort of people just, doing sort of, I guess Sonic was big of late and things like that and all that sort of business. But it is good to see people that are willing to sort of dig up some of the other. It's the word obscure is so subjective, because what's obscure to me is like I've been playing this since I was 9 years old. This is not obscure. But that's the beauty of retro gaming now. It's all, like you said, companies like what was the one you said before? Limited Run and things like that. They're, when they dig up something, then you dig up other things on your own if you're enjoying it.
Yeah, you all of a sudden you start to find out, you're like, oh, I like this style of game. What else do these people do?
So Game Boys, that's sort of like, I guess, most of the reason why I'm here sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to. But how was the Game Boy sort of part of your life growing up and now where you are?
I played the original Game Boy, but I didn't play it a lot. I think I remember playing Super Mario Land and Tetris. That's probably about it on the big grey brick. But I got a Game Boy Color when they came out, right. and Pokemon Blue at the time, which I still had my copy, thankfully.
The original,
somehow,
cool.
After moving like 20 times since that. And I think it was a couple of years ago when I started seeing people start to do things to their Game Boys, start to mod their own Game Boys.
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. Kept an eye on it. And then more and more people kind of got along with it. And all of a sudden you start getting companies, making injection molded shells and things like that are available for purchase. So you can customize them.
Have you done much modding yourself? Or?
Yeah, I've done a little bit. It was a bit of a learning curve. I did it all last year, and I kind of got to a point where I made my dream Game Boy, which is a Evangelion themed Game Boy Advance. It's got a shell that's made out of solid aluminium, machine cut, and it's purple anodized.
Oh, I see, with the green buttons.
That's the one.
Wow,
it's a joy to hold.
Is it?
Yeah. And I really like heavy, like substantial feeling objects. I have like an affinity for solid feeling things.
Right.
So
yeah,
when I could get a case that was made out of aluminium, I was like, yes, please.
My only challenge I have is I kind of I'm quite a furious gamer, even if it's a simple game, and I kind of I get sort of like pretty sweaty hands, and like with my 3DS, I had to buy like a sort of a shell for it, a skin, like a protective case, and that's the only thing I find with some.
I think I'm the same, actually.
I find I'm just starting to get a little bit like just sort of not sliding out of my hands,
slippery.
Just, just the surface of them is
like
just
playing on a bar of soap.
Yeah, a little bit. The GBA seems to, I don't get that feeling as much, just the way it sits in your hands. It really rests in the two hands nicely, whereas a Pocket or a DMG or even a Color, I've got to kind of really grasp them, and I find them.
Yeah.
Some of the newer shells that have been printed have got like a nice texture to them, so I find them easier to kind of hang on to as well.
Yeah, as far as like ergonomics go, I find that the same. Like the Game Boy Advance is my favorite console to hold and to play like more than 10 minutes on, but it gets hard playing the Game Boy Color and Pocket, all the like that shaped one, because for that reason, like you just cramp up and it gets a little bit sweaty or whatever.
Yeah. Did you sort of spend more time in Nintendo or Sega growing up?
Probably overall it's Nintendo, but I definitely got a Mega Drive when they came out as well. Like I was really lucky. I had next door neighbors that were older than me, and they had a huge, like a collection that would probably be the size of mine today.
Oh, wow.
But back in like
in the
1994. Day. Yeah.
Wow.
So I got to play every game that I wanted. And I'm still finding games today. Like I'm still finding games from back then, and I'm like, and I see it, or I play it, and I'm like, oh, I've played this game before.
Oh, right, it was with them.
And I'm like, and there was one game recently I picked up. It's for the Super Nintendo. It's called Contra. The English name is Contra: The Alien Wars.
Yeah.
And when I put that on, I was like blown away. I was like, oh my God, I remember this game. And I had no idea, like it was like a locked memory. I was playing through. I'm like, I remember doing all this. I remember this boss. Oh, I remember this stage. And I just blew my own mind. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I can't believe I played so many games back when I was like, 7 through 12.
How familiar was the game?
I can still remember, but not necessarily know.
How familiar?
Quite familiar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was surprised that, like, I definitely remembered the bosses. I remembered like different parts of the game. I don't know if you've played the game. It's really iconic in its design.
I actually like the game. Like, I know what Contra is, and I've always been quite fearful of the word Contra because it's, it's always as a very difficult game. But when I played that one, I was just like, this is actually, because I played hardcore on the Mega Drive, and then when I played Alien Wars on the SNES, I was like, this is, which I think is almost the same game. I could be wrong. I can't just say what comes to mind. But I found them both just doable for the first time. I was like, this is actually quite fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. But it's really memorable. I don't know. I think maybe I just saw it a lot when I was little, but it sticks with me.
It's a gorgeous game. It is very gorgeous. Even though it's quite action-packed, it's got a real, the backdrops and just the animations and the different numbers of sort of bad guys and the dogs and just the bosses now just really kind of, like, I grew up on Astro Boy, and it was sort of like, oh, what's the Astro Boy was that real monster of the week type show, it's like, oh, what's he gonna face this week? And games like Contra have that same feeling of like, that's
an interesting, not a lot of people watched Astro Boy.
No, well, I mean, I grew up in Australia. We only had a few channels, and ABC used to play Astro Boy, and it was like probably the most memorable animation of my life is I felt like it was a 2 or 3 episode kind of like special they did. It was just within the season where Astro Boy was challenged by some bot that was kind of like this massive dude with horns, and he was basically traveling around the world defeating all these global robots. And then he was like, come on, Astro Boy, come out. And in the end, he realizes he's just very upset about something. And Astro Boy fights him, but in the end has to sort of talk him down because he kidnaps his sister and stuff. But what I remember the most is one of them is he challenges this Australian robot, which is very kind of android looking. And this was 80s. And the Australian robot's thing was that he fought really strong in the sun, a whole solar thing. So when old matey said, meet me here at this time, he ensured it was thunderstorms.
It was at nighttime.
And it just hosed him. So, but it had that same thing where it's like, what am I going to face next? And how am I going to get around this?
I don't meet many Australians that used to watch like anime back in the day. Like you're older than I am, obviously, but
a few years
came on a little bit later.
I mean,
I remember watching,
but I used to watch Monkey Magic as well, and most people don't know what that is.
I remember the first airings of Evangelion in Australia on the ABC. Right. Was it ABC? It was one of the ABC or SBS.
Yeah, probably
it must have
SBS.
Been ABC.
Oh
yeah.
Anyhow,
one of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, it was traumatizing because I was like pretty young. And if you've seen Evangelion, like early on, that there's so much blood and like the Ava unit gets his arm ripped off and Shinji's like freaking out.
Right. I haven't watched a single episode.
I
kind of went to. Yeah, it's pearls to swine here. Unfortunately, I went down the Gundam path a few years ago, and that was all pretty traumatic. It wasn't as bloody, but it was very. Oh my God, this is just World War 1, 2, 3 all over again. Wow, everybody's just sad. Yeah, Astro Boy.
Speaking of Astro Boy, there's a game on the Game Boy Advance.
I was just about to say exactly the same thing to you.
Omega Factor.
Yeah, it's an awesome, fun game, huh?
Oh, it is. It is an excellent game. It's really, really good.
It is
And
fun.
for anyone that's listening, like if you haven't played, if you like run and gun
Yeah.
games, get Astro Boy for the Game Boy Advance.
It's got a weird little skillsy kind of thing, how it depends on who you meet and things like that's pretty cool. It reminds me of another game which is really cool called Alien Hominid on the GBA. Have you ever played that?
I had that for the GameCube, but I traded it with a friend so I could get a copy of Dragon Quest V for the
Oh,
DS.
I'm sure you're happy either way, but it's an excellent game. I think I also found that on the PS2, which was really cool because I was like, oh, now it's on my, 29-inch Trinitron. That's so rad. Fun. Now, speaking of Astro Boy and sort of collecting and things like that, I believe you've been to Japan once or twice.
Yeah, once or twice. I've been to Japan probably 13 times now,
Probably
if I
13.
had to guess. Probably.
Wow. I know that I asked you and I had a question, I had a exclamation mark next to Japan. And when you told me that before, I was like, and there's six more exclamation marks, 13 visits to Japan.
Yeah,
That's
in
pretty
about 10
amazing.
years.
That's amazing. I mean, you look around you and see how your world's changed in 10 years. To go back there so regularly must have really been almost like a second home.
Yeah, it felt like that. Like I really like that feeling actually of it's funny. I would go there. I've been there like times I've taken friends and like my partner and stuff, and I'll turn up in the city thinking I'm like, I remember this store. It had this thing. Like, I don't quite remember
Yeah.
where the store is.
Yeah.
And I would just like walk and just let my natural like sense of direction take me. And I'll always find the place that I'm looking for. And I'm
Right.
like, this is it. I'm so glad I found it. Like just in the city in another country. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is good. I like being familiar in a different country.
Yeah, that's magical. I know we went a few years ago, my wife, my daughter, and I, and when you she would have been, my daughter would have been probably 5 at the time. So you kind of really just doing the best you can to enjoy it whilst following a 5-year-old around because it was just like one big theme park for her. But we
Oh
spent
my God. It would be amazing for a
she loved. I mean,
5-year-old.
she's just a claw. She's like a claw machine, kind of like junkie. So we came
Even
back
just
with
like the bakeries with like
yeah, yeah,
breads that's in the shape of
yeah.
like animals and stuff.
We spent a night just sort of walking around Shibuya, where the big crossing is, and things like that. And then I think it was like a night or two ago, we were watching like someone just did like a 4K kind of with a gimbal camera, just walking through Shibuya. And we were sort
Yeah.
of seeing stuff and going, hang on, I think that's where we got off the train because we stay at Shinjuku. That's where we got off the train. We walked around, all the people were, the crossing just started. And we were just like taken, literally carried across the Shibuya crossing.
Yeah, with all the people.
With all the people, it's like, don't stop because you don't want to get stuck here. Who knows what happens?
You
And then,
get knocked over. I've seen so many people like actually get like knocked over in the middle of the road in that crossing, particularly like over the years.
it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people a day. It's monstrous.
Mm.
And this guy kind of walked up this alley and to the right, and we're like, that's that awesome sushi place we went back to 3 times. Like, you couldn't, but it wasn't about looking at it and seeing it. It was like you said, as he walked across the crossing and kind of leant to the right and then up that street and then into that one, I was like, there was this kind of, like you said before, like a locked memory, just a familiarness. And as he came around the corner, it was like that was it there. We could see it. So
Yeah.
I very much envy you having that in more places than just a sushi joint in Shibuya, because that was awesome.
Oh, look, it's still good to have that feeling for a sushi place in Japan. Like that's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
like a very nice thing to have.
It was very different. We had a lot of sushi here, and sushi in Australia is not like sushi in Japan. It's significantly different. And just we weren't disappointed, but just the concept of like there's a lot of sort of I don't know how to explain it. It was just different, and it was nice to actually get some real sushi. The place we went to
Yeah.
there was not like it wasn't a train. It would have a little like a carriage, just a single carriage would come out to you, and you take your
Yeah.
stuff off, and then it would zip back. And I was like, well, that's
Yeah.
next,
They
that's
have
next
like
level.
a door that opens from the kitchen,
Yeah,
train comes out.
just sends it out to you and then zips back, and you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
whole next level. Stupid trains.
Did you happen to go to like the Tsukiji fish market? I'm not sure if it had been moved by the time
No,
you
we
went?
didn't. It was still there. It would have been an early thing, and I couldn't convince my wife or my daughter to do it. And I was I was burning the wick at both ends because I was sort of doing stuff with
Yeah,
them by day and then going into Akihabara at night, to sort of
yeah,
buy up all the Gundam I was looking for. So I was like, I couldn't get up in the morning and then go look at fish, and I was just like, too much.
that's hard. Yeah.
It was,
That's why I end up going back so many times
that's
because I'm
right.
like, there's just more to do. There's more
Yeah.
that I want to see, more that I want to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, being a kind of collector and player, did you well, I'm going to say how much did you bring back from Japan when you were over there, and what sort of stuff were you kind of looking for? And did this kind of tie in because you only started streaming like a year or two ago, so I guess this was still when you were just collecting, right?
Yeah, definitely. I was always like, I loved looking in game stores
Mm,
since like forever.
mm,
It's not something we really have here in Australia. Like, you can't, like, maybe now you'd have like one game store per major city or something like
mm.
that sells retro games. But it's when I went there and I saw that it's still like just everywhere. Like, you could go to any city in Japan and find a place that sells collectibles and vintage games and toys and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like blown away. I was like, yeah, man, this stuff is really cool. I just want to look at this stuff all day long.
yeah,
So I was finding, yeah, stuff that I remembered from my childhood. Just, I'm like, you'd see, I'm like, oh, cool, Dragon Ball Z. But on the Famicom, you're like, whoa, we didn't get Dragon Ball Z stuff until, we were teenagers here.
yeah. Did you own
And
us because you own a Super Famicom? Did you own a Super Famicom before you went over, or was it that something that you brought back and that kind of helped you on your other 12 trips to have more to buy?
I had a Super Nintendo, but I had one of the, I knew you could play. Since my first trip, I've definitely become a lot more knowledgeable on games in general. But I had an adapter which allowed you to play games from America or Japan in an
Right.
Australian Super Nintendo.
So it's just like a cart in the middle, like the whole Sonic and Knuckles thing.
Yeah, kind of. So what it is, it's an adapter. You plug it into your Super Nintendo, and on top, it's got space for two cartridges. And
Oh,
what it does is you put the cartridge from like Australia in the back slot, and it uses like the region from that cartridge, but then loads the ROM from the cartridge that's in the front slot.
so you could put
So
any,
it's in
so you could put any PAL cartridge in the back and then play any
any
NTSC.
power cartridge.
Right.
Correct.
That is super
Yeah.
awesome. Is that the
Yeah. It's real
legit thing by
nifty.
Nintendo, or was it like a Tengen
Um,
thing or something? Doesn't
no,
sound
there were
very
third
Nintendo.
party. No, it's not. I mean, they were the ones that came up with the region locking idea. It's made by, there's a whole bunch of different ones. The most common one I'd say is probably made by Universal Adapter. I think that's what it's called. That's the
Yeah,
brand on it.
that's amazing.
And yeah, so I would pick up the games that I wanted to play. I remember the first ones I picked up when I was over there. I bought Final Fantasy V. I found it for like 700 yen, and it was like, it had never been played. It was brand new.
My goodness.
It was in a store, and I was like, and I opened it up. I was like, when I got back to my hotel room and opened it up, and I was like, holy moly! Like, I even like looked at the pins in the cartridge in the daylight, because
Yeah,
you can tell if there's any sort of like, if they've been inserted in something.
yeah.
There's always like hairline
Little
marks on the
abrasions.
pins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, this has never been played. I picked up Final Fantasy. I was really happy I picked up Super Metroid. This was like
Oh
10 years
yeah.
ago,
Wow.
and all those sorts of games. I picked up a Mario game as well, and
Yeah. So one of the probably more obscure consoles that you've got is the Famicom disk system. I can see it sitting, I can see over your shoulder, it's sitting up there now. Just seeing one in real life makes me a little bit giddy. I don't want one, I don't need one, but it's a bit like looking at someone with a space shuttle in their backyard. It was real. It was
a
obviously
little less impressive.
a little yeah, a little easier to store, but it's like, whoa, that's a real one. So what's the deal with that? And just take me through the concept of having it, buying discs, and kind of like, I don't know, I would be so worried that the discs were going to get damaged or like melt in the machine, or is there any precautions you take? Because it's like a little floppy disk, much like the old kind of like, was it like 3.5-inch
The
disc?
3.5-inch discs,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly the same, except these ones are like thicker. They're probably, I don't know, I want to say half a centimeter, like 5 mil thick.
Right.
And they're, yeah, it is an obscure system, that's for sure. I mean, oh, there's a pork by me. Oh, thank you.
Lunch. Good stuff.
Lunch delivered. Nice. Yeah, it's a strange, definitely. I personally have never seen anyone with one. So I was the first person that I know that owned one, which is pretty unusual.
Yeah.
And they use originally it's a box, a red box that was an attachment, and it had like a RAM module that would plug into the cartridge slot of a Famicom console.
Right.
And it was like an accessory to the Famicom console, which allowed you to play the discs.
Right.
And the discs had like better, you could save games on the discs.
Right, because it was writable.
It was able to, it was writable.
Yeah.
Which was a huge thing like in the 80s, which is like, that's why they made it. And it also had better music capabilities. So the music tracks for those games are better than their Famicom counterparts.
So imagine it's a larger capacity.
Having games like Legend of Zelda and Metroid and Kid Icarus, their music tracks would just sound like way better on the disc system. Yeah. So it's a different experience.
Yeah. It's a bit like the Mega Drive to Mega CD. The EverDrive I have is the Mega EverDrive Pro. So we will play both. And there are several games that I think one of them is like Terminator. And if you play Terminator as the Mega CD version, the soundtrack is it's a really cool little sort of slightly adventure-y platformer. And the music it's noticeably better because obviously it was supposed to be a CD. So I can imagine back then, to go from that sort of beep, 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 beep to an actual maybe somewhat stereotype, at least that clarity, that extra bit rate for the audio must have been amazing. So did you buy it and here's 3 games and there's no way I'm forking out for any more and I hardly ever play them? Do you treat it with kid gloves or do you still get to play it? And is it sort of like, is it achievable to pick up a new game every now and then and not think it's going to be just demagnetized because someone
dead on arrival?
Because I mean you can't leave these niggas speakers and stuff, right? Like you could cook them easy enough.
It is pretty easy to wipe that sort of stuff. I've only purchased a dead one like maybe once or twice, so I've been pretty lucky. Most of the ones I get are all, I try and buy from reputable sellers or like shops that have tested them. Yeah. So I know that I'm getting one that works, especially if it's a game that I want.
Yeah.
No, when I bought mine, I found out that there was something called, so I got the disc system. I had one in box and it like died while it was in my possession.
Oh, no.
And I was sad because I really wanted to play it. Yeah. And I found out that the belts inside the disc system that drive the gears often deteriorate.
Right.
And that's a common issue for those old systems.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to sell that. And I found out that not Nintendo, but the electronics company Sharp made a console that's called the Twin Famicom.
Oh.
And the Twin Famicom was a console that included a cartridge slot for the Famicom games and a disc system drive all in the one console.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I started keeping an eye out on the usual places, eBay and things like that. And I finally found someone in Japan that was selling a refurbished one. The person had personally opened it up. He'd replaced all the capacitors inside.
Wow.
He changed all the drive belts. and I thought, this is the one. This is what I want. So I went ahead and bought it. I think it cost me $200 at the time, which I
That's
thought was
pretty
pretty
good.
reasonable.
Was it the red one or the grey one?
I got the red one.
Yeah.
I liked the idea of having the red one.
Yeah, for shiz.
And yeah, it's excellent. I put it on, I play it semi-regularly. Like I have a lot of consoles, so it's kind of just whatever catches my feeling on the day. But just the other day, last week, I think, I bought another lot from another seller in Japan, and it was a twin Famicom, the gray one, but I got it because it came with a whole bunch of Famicom games, and about half of them I didn't own and I did want to play. It came with a cool like Famicom soft vinyl case for like storing your cartridges. And it's got a picture of Mario on it. It's got like Windows in it. It says Famicom on it. It was like super 80s.
Oh, wow.
And it also had the original box and styrofoam for the console. And the Sharp Twin Famicom box is really cool. It's like bright yellow. It's got screenshots, like 2 big screenshots on the box. One of like Mario game and one of like The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately the disk drive doesn't work on that console. So I'm probably going to sell that, keep the box, keep the games, and be happy with what I got.
Yeah, amazing. It must be really cool when you've got something that, I mean, you've got so much, but when you get something that is so rare. I watch a few of these guys on YouTube. One of them's Kid Shuriken. Another one is Scruffy RGB, and they're both Americans. They have individual channels on YouTube, but they at times
I've seen Scruffy.
Yeah, they'll come together and do stuff together, but they will just wander through the Super Potatoes and the Hard Offs and all the other different stores, and you just see like
the used game stores.
Yeah, like pallets of Famicoms and pallets of like there's
just
one time where a dude's just like walking through and there's like a whole like aisle of Neo Geo MBSs, and I was just like, oh my god, it's like walking down like a car lot full of Rolls Royces. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
Bonkers, and you've got a Neo Geo, you've got an MBS, haven't you? And you've got a cab.
Yeah, I've got an AES and an MVS. I try not to.
Yeah,
I try not to collect for the AES because it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But so I was lucky that I have the money that I spent on the cabinet is probably the same price as like 2 good games for the home console.
yeah. So sorry, the AES is the console, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about this before. I've seen something recently about a consolizer for the MVS. So you basically take the hardware of the cabinet, because the cabinet is like, what's your cabinet? They're a multi-slot cabinet. Yours is what, a 4 or an 8 or something?
Mine's a 6 slot.
6, yeah. I'm still learning.
Which is a lot of games, like,
and
it's got the cool like marquee at the top, which has the inserts for which games you have in the cabinet.
Yeah, like little pigeonholes for each slot. Sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, mine's like, they're original. It's super faded, sun faded though. Like it has seen some better days, but you can still see what's in there.
Yeah. So that fires up and everything's good about it?
It was up until just recently. I have a chassis issue, which I need to get sorted.
They're very temperamental. I've spoken to, here in Brisbane, we have an arcade. If you're ever in Brisbane, you must let me join you there. One Up Arcade, not related to the 3/4 size cabinets. They've sort of hit the market over the last couple of years. And they've got about 8 of them. And here will be, the guy there will be like, these are by far the most troublesome machines we have. And we have old pinballs, sort of electromagnetic kind of electromechanicals. So I think just that multi-cartridge thing just makes them so kind of finicky.
I'd say like actually the board itself is like really sturdy. Like
right.
You might have like a blown capacitor here or there, but that's just due to the age of it, and that could happen in anything of that age.
Yeah.
But I would say overall, they're pretty rough. I've got another like Namco Excelina cabinet as well, which runs CPS2
right
boards, and that's really sturdy. I've got it. I had to dismantle it like a couple of weeks ago because I have to dismantle it. It's got really wide sides. It's like a really wide cabinet.
Right.
And it doesn't fit through a standard door.
Oh man.
So it's like a whole issue if you want to move it. And
Yeah.
I needed to move it. So
when you're going to put it somewhere, you have
it lying around.
You have a discussion with your girlfriend, and you sort of say,
"Yeah, I'm going to put it right there behind me."
And you sort of say, "So when it goes here, it's staying here for some time. Are you sure you're happy with it?"
Yeah, that's right.
Had
to get the all okay.
Yeah. Have you done any streaming? I mean, it's hard to capture. You kind of got to use a camera, but have you ever looked at streaming from the cabinet?
I've thought about it. I've looked into it as well. And I thought maybe it's possible to. Honestly, it wouldn't really be worth it, in my opinion. I know some people do. There's a Korean guy that I follow on Instagram. He's probably got the biggest collection I've seen out of anyone ever, full stop.
Right. Yeah.
And he's got a lot of cabinets set up, and he'll do videos of him playing on the cabinets. Yeah. I could probably make a YouTube video, but it wouldn't be worth it to stream, I don't think.
Yeah.
It'd be easier for me just to play the port of those games on a different console or just play it on the AES.
Yeah, yeah. I guess like your streaming is a lot about just sort of, playing how you like to play and then allowing other people to kind of join you in the experience, right? So sitting down in your comfy game chair with a game that you've been looking for, on the Japanese market for some time. How do you find kind of people? Do you sort of play what you want, or do you allow? Because same as like anybody that's on Instagram, you sort of go, "Oh, I'm just here for the community and everything's great," but you're watching your likes and you're watching this and you're watching that. Do you allow those kind of analytics to affect what you play, or do you still sort of
I got really surprised. I know what you mean. It's definitely it plays a, even if you don't think like the analytics of this sort of stuff will affect your own personal opinion, but it does subconsciously, because you're like, oh, okay, a lot of people joined in, a lot of people were chatting, or a lot of people looked at this and liked this.
Yeah,
I got really surprised. I finally got my Sega Saturn able to stream. I accidentally purchased the wrong kind of cable.
Oh no!
Twice, not once, but twice. But I managed to get it up and running a couple of weeks ago, and I had this mahjong game that I really wanted to play.
Seriously,
I like mahjong. Yeah, I like mahjong.
Yeah,
and a lot of mahjong games have like cute girls in them, cute anime girls. They got nice cutscenes and. Look, I just fall into that category, all right?
Yeah.
I'm their demographic.
Yeah.
And because I work in a casino, so I really like games, right? So I love poker.
So I know games and
all
stuff.
The games.
Yeah, right.
So mahjong is like the next step for me. I learned how to play. Basically, I'm not good, but I can play, and I can progress through mahjong games thanks to understanding how it works and being able to read a bit of Japanese.
Do you guys have mahjong machines at work? Because I know I've been to a couple of casinos in Australia.
No.
Right.
In Sydney, though, they do play mahjong tournaments, which is really cool.
Right.
The last time I went, I really wanted to play, but I didn't get the time, unfortunately. They play like once a week. But yeah, I put on this mahjong game that I've been wanting to play, that I'd gotten in recently, and had a great time with it. I managed to beat the game.
Right.
Like the story mode. I was like, yeah, like I'm a mahjong king. Woo.
You're the mahjong masters, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, shisho.
Yeah.
And I found out the next day on Twitch, I had a look. All of a sudden, like my videos of previous plays will get like, I don't know, 30, 40 views, 50 views. And which is fine. Like I'm only a little streamer, but all of a sudden this video had 1,700 views of me playing and beating this mahjong game, and I was like, oh, maybe the people like mahjong. Maybe this is an untapped market. So
yeah.
I'm going to test that theory out again soon.
Will it be another Saturn mahjong game, or will it be a different mahjong game?
Saturn definitely looks the prettiest, and I think I've got a couple more, so I might make it another Saturn one.
Right.
You can get some really like interesting controllers. Actually, there's mahjong specific controllers for different consoles. Like Capcom makes some for the Famicom. Hori makes some. They're really interesting. If you play mahjong, or even if you're just interested a little bit, look up some obscure controllers. They're really
Hori
cool.
Mahjong controller sounds super duper obscure because like Hori's like, big ass fight sticks and Street Fighter 76 or whatever the latest version of something is. And then Mahjong's not like there's no twitch reflexes required to play Mahjong, right?
Oh no, that's right.
Oh my
But
goodness.
Hori is like the standard. I keep seeing like I'd tell my partner when we saw like the Switch come out here and we would buy like we were looking for extra controllers and stuff, and you go to your EB Games and I was looking at these third-party controllers because the Nintendo stuff's quite expensive.
Yeah.
And I gave them a go. I tried out these controllers and I thought, oh man, these are just awful. Like genuinely awful. Like the quality is so poor. And then I'm like, oh, why can't they just bring Hori like over here and like release the stuff that Japan gets here? Because their quality is just amazing. They've been making stuff for every console that's ever made ever since like game consoles came out.
I'm sure I've seen like old school kind of like it's either like the Mega Drive or the Nintendo Fight Stick or something. It was Hori. Like it was a Nintendo or a Mega Drive brand. It was a Hori device. And I was like, well, they've been around a lot longer than, Street Fighter 5 or whatever. I guess it's just the hardware reliability. They don't have to be
that's kind
of
that's all it is.
You don't have to be just fast and just quick to get those Haryukens off, but the reliability of the equipment. I've got a cabinet that I built out plywood with a Raspberry Pi, and I went through 3 or 4 different types of sticks. Like I ended up going with one which has got like you can sort of lift it up and turn the hinge. So it can be a 4-way or an 8-way. Because playing like Donkey Kong with 8-way sticks, just like I'm bad enough as it is. But you could see the difference in micro switches and stick lengths, and just I can understand why a certain type becomes a standard and why people just say this is the way it should be. So the fact that Hori then made a mahjong is like, well, it's not going to be bad, is it? It's going to be a good thing.
That's right. But they're just really interesting because they have all like individual buttons. Like you'll never see a controller with more buttons on it than a mahjong controller, because you can play it literally with, it's almost like a keyboard. It has, so when you play mahjong, I don't know if anyone knows about it, but you have tiles and you have a row of tiles like sitting at the bottom. I don't know how many you have, maybe 15 or so, like total. And there's a button for each one of those tiles. So you have like 15 across, then you have like your start, select, all these extra buttons as well. They're really something to look at.
Yeah. I always kind of wonder about, like, I can understand why there was board games and card games on computer games. And I always wondered why you would do that. But as I kind of, as my daughter grows up, it became quite apparent when we went through our Pokemon phase playing the trading card game. Yeah, and we played it for a year or two, and we played it a lot. And then when we discovered the TCG online, it was like, this is why, because being the parent / adult, I'd have to get the decks, maybe build decks, set it up, and by the third hand, she's like, oh, I kind of feeling a bit tired, Daddy. This is too much work. So then I'm packing it up, and all of a sudden I realized, okay, this is why they're on your iPad. Games.
You open it up.
That's right.
Done.
This is why board games are on computer games. I think there's a Switch one called, I want to say it's called
51 Games
Clubhouse. Have you heard of that?
I don't know if that's the one that's on Switch.
I think there's one called Clubhouse that has a bunch of really good games that are sort of like that, where it's like, I think it's maybe there might be snakes and ladders and things like that on it as well, or something. But
there's a Nintendo made one. It's like 51 games worldwide.
Right.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, it's really well polished.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know recently my daughter and I tried to play, was it Mario Party 10 on the Wii U, and I think I then discovered it was like the one that nobody likes because it's not mini games. It's like just you getting chased around by Bowser. and it's very random, and you kind of are going to lose. Whether it's very much like those sideshow alleys, you're going to lose. It's just a matter of when, sort of thing.
I can't believe Mario Party has had so many iterations. Like that's impressive, really.
It is pretty impressive. I'm sort of looking forward to the Switch with my daughter, because we've had a lot of time on the Wii. We've sort of looked at the Wii U. Like when I saw Mario Kart, is it 8 on the Wii U, and I was like, holy, like I said, I haven't got a Switch. I've got a PS4. I've seen some cool stuff, but when I saw Mario Kart 8 on my crappy kind of Bravia, a couple of years old Bravia, I was just blown away by how good that looked. And you could still use the Wiimotes. It was just like Mario Kart Wii, but on roids.
It's a lot of fun. It's so
good. Just so good. And I just spent like 2 nights in a row up to real late, just unlocking as much as I could, sort of thing. It was a good time.
See, you should stream that and have like a stream of your daughter beating you at Mario Kart 8.
Well, it's a funny story. I did better a long time ago that if she ever beat me, I would give her $20, and she could never beat me, but she would often.
I'm in debt now.
Yeah, she would beat the She would beat the console because of the elastic banding, and I wasn't there to set the pace. So when I was running, they were running harder, and she was kind of getting that 5th and 6th. But after a while, she nailed it. She's like, "I'm ready, Dad," and I'm like, "Sure, love, whatever." And she stepped up and she smoked me on a 4-race tournament, and I was like, "This is
hell yeah!
This is when it happens."
Was that a proud moment, or were you like
a little
on the inside?
Both proud and a little bit. Go to your room, kind of thing.
Go to your room. Here's your $20.
I think that's
Don't mention this to your mother.
I think she actually sort of lost the gusto to play the game after that. I think she's like, "I've done all I need to do here." I beat
I get that feeling. Like once I speed run a game, I get under that personal time. You're like, "That's it. I'm done. I'll put this game aside."
Yeah.
She had her mark. It was to beat Dad.
Yeah, she did. Even though she didn't know it, she realized, okay, satisfaction. I just recently, in the last day or two, finished Samus Returns on the 3DS, and I've got through a couple of games since really kind of getting into retro gaming over the last couple of years, and sort of thought, oh my God, thank God that's over. But this is the first time I've got through a game and sort of went, I wish there was a little more here. Because I was only, even though I'd got right through the game, I'd only completed something like 71% of the game as far as exploration and items. And I'm not 100%er at all. But once you get the Metroid, you can go back to certain areas where all the green crystals are kind of blocking corridors, and he chomps through everything. So you can get to a bunch of...
I'm like halfway through that game.
Right. So, yeah, my suggestion is, if you're 100%er, is when you get to the last boss, and you'll know when that is, I've got to save just before that. And even though the last boss took me freaking forever to do, like probably 30 attempts over like 2 weeks, I'm a fairly average gamer, but I got it in the end.
I am too, despite like what some people may think.
Being a streamer doesn't make you professional. It just makes you
determined.
Yeah, that's right. Determined. That's right. Yeah, so after that, I was like, I need more. Fortunately, I've got Fusion. Unfortunately, I've got all the primes. And then there's other M. And come Christmas will be Dread. So there's plenty.
There is plenty. Like
it's a weird IP Metroid that hasn't really got more love. Maybe it's it's not an RPG and it's not Castlevania. It's a little more methodical, and
that's weird. I find it weird when people say that it hasn't got more love. Like, it is an obscure game that was
it's just not Mario or Zelda, I guess. Is just they're the two titans fighting against Nintendo.
But there's plenty of titles. There's Metroid.
Lots.
There's Metroid 2. They had the Game Boy game. They had the Game Boy sequel.
Yeah.
There's the Game Boy Advance.
I think it's like 3
games.
primes.
There's 3 primes. There's other M.
Yeah.
There's lots of games in the series, and everyone's always like, "Oh, I want more." It can't please everyone.
No, I think I'm actually interested in seeing what other M is like to play. Have you ever played that?
A little bit.
It's on the Wii. It's like a third-person-y kind of thingy, like a dungeon crawlery in that fashion, like a Baldur's Gate looking sort of 3D third-person-y. So I wanted to kind of look at a couple of things that you've got in your. These are definitely part of the collection. We'll start with the three things that you've got that really kind of catch my eyes. You've got this. It's a jacket, and to describe the jacket, it's kind of like blue with white sleeves. Kind of looks like one of those kind of American football kind of jock college jackets. And it is a 1998 A&A jacket. So this is obviously related to the airlines. And
yeah, it's the Japanese airline.
It's in absolutely perfect condition. All the embroidery on the left breast is a embroidery, which is kind of like a 747, I imagine, would have been the tech of the day. And Pikachu with the balloons, and under that
flying Pikachu,
and then pocket monsters, and then on the back, what's on the back of it? The same thing, but much bigger and sexier because it's not embroidered. Wow. Tell us a bit about this jacket, because
actually the reverse is embroidered as well.
Oh, that's even better. Tell us a bit about it, because it seems very in excellent condition and probably quite expensive and rare.
Rare, and it could be expensive, but I don't really know, because they don't really turn up very often. It's more of a case of whoever's selling it at the time will set the price. That's one of those items.
Right.
And
if someone wants it bad enough, they'll bid higher than the other guy, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly right. Like when you have something that's rare, it's just a matter of what the market is like at the time. But this item, you could only buy it. So back in the day in the 90s, when you would fly with an airline, particularly international,
right,
the airlines would come out and give you a catalog, and you could browse the catalog, and these were like kind of what do you call it, like duty-free items and stuff like that, that you could buy through the airlines for certain prices. It was just shopping. It was a way for the airlines to make money,
like bit of extra merch and things like that.
And Pokemon was huge at the time, and they'd gotten a deal with the ANA Airlines to promote them, and they had a lot of promotional material that was only available through ANA Airlines, and this jacket was one of their premium products in an airline catalog at the time. So you could only buy it if you were flying with them and ordered it through the catalog. So there's not too many around. They do pop up every now and then. I've seen 2 in the last 3 years in Australia.
You obviously didn't time travel to go back and get this one. You bought this one on the market. Was this a trip to Japan, or did you buy this in the just from Australia and have it shipped to you?
Actually, I bought it from eBay from a seller who they specialize in like graded Pokemon cards.
Right.
And I know of the seller, and that seller has been around a long time, and they're really quite big. And all of a sudden, I just remember seeing they got a whole bunch of like this really obscure merchandise that was Japanese merchandise. And I was like, oh, this is not like this person at all. My brother's a really big Pokemon card collector. So I was always like looking out for stuff for him. And when I saw this lot of items come up for sale, I was like, oh, it's from this guy. Oh, yeah. But they didn't really have any sort of market value to set
nor an attachment items up obviously
for. Nor an attachment, because it wasn't what they usually deal with, because they just deal with cards. And I made an offer for it, and they happily accepted, and I was very happy with the price I paid, and it came in excellent condition.
Beautiful.
Been hanging on my wall ever since.
I'm looking on eBay at the moment. I looked up the jacket, and there is no jacket. But what there is a Pokemon A&A limited gold boarding pass from 1998. So it's, that's kind of cool. They were really into it.
There was some really strange stuff like that. It's amazing what you can find.
Something else you've got that's pretty rad is you got a DMG inbox with the pack-in Zelda cart. That's pretty rad, huh?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You if as far as Game Boy variations go, like it was a standard gray DMG console, but
yeah,
the box is what makes it interesting because it was a pack-in, and it has, everyone knows that it's the sticker that makes the special edition.
yeah, yeah.
And on the front, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the little corner sticker saying that it comes with The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, special offer, game pack inside.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
And I managed to find it with the entire store receipt still attached to the back of the box and complete.
Right, it's
The
still
store
got,
usually rips
got
off
the warm
like
up price
half of
tag
the,
on the front,
yeah.
49.96 back in the day, $50.
That sounds like a good price.
It
I
does
would
sound
have
like a
bought that.
pretty, even back in the day, it sounds like a pretty good price.
Yeah. $50. That sounds good.
Yeah. So what were you saying about the receipt?
Yeah, the receipt was interesting as well because when they sold them, the store was supposed to tear off half of the receipt that's on the back, and that was like your proof of purchase. So you have one half and the store has the other half.
Right.
So if anything went wrong, you could bring it back, and that was your warranty essentially.
Right.
But for somehow this console managed to make it out of the store, and the store forgot to pull the receipt off. So it has the entire store receipt on the back, which I think like adds to the rarity of it. Like you don't see that very often.
Receipts are cool. I know, like I said to you before, I had a big stack of games I got with my Mega Drive. One of them I got rid of, which I sort of am a little bit, I shouldn't have, but I did anyway, because I was just like, whatevs. One of them was Theme Park for Mega Drive.
The
and
SimCity game.
Yeah. And it the receipt for that game bought on the day, back in the day, was $99.
I was going to say, I can't believe when I like thought about that games were that expensive.
That's
in
crazy.
The 90s. It's so crazy. No wonder we would only get like one game for like Christmas or a birthday or something.
Well, the whole Mega Drive was probably, I don't know, $250 to $300, which was still a lot of money back then. But and I played that game a little bit. I don't see $99 in value. But whatever. I mean, that was fun times back then, I guess.
Games were so expensive, and people are complaining now that like some games will release price at like $89. You're like, oh.
Yeah. I see you have one specific PC Engine Hue card. It's where is it? What does it say? This game is Shibibin Man for the PC Engine.
Shubibin Man.
Yeah, sorry, I totally butchered that for those that.
That's okay.
Yeah. So, what do you have a PC Engine? That's not on my list.
I do. I love it. It's sitting right here on top of my TV.
Right. You got the grey PC Engine.
I've got the Core Graphics 2.
Right.
Actually, I changed it to the Core Graphics 1. I had a few iterations of the PC Engine. I love it. It's a great console as far as the 8-bit consoles go, because it doesn't feel like it's 8-bit. It's a mastery of the time.
It's got some exceptionally awesome shooters and stuff, and
really known for its shooters.
Yeah,
that's right. But there's a lot of like action adventure games too, and they're all really fun.
Yeah.
It's got a great library, not like the American equivalent, the TurboGrafx, which only got like a small portion of the games that were released.
Can you not play?
No offense if you like
the two games on the different region locked?
Yeah, there is.
Right.
Unfortunately, but the PC Engine, it's an excellent console. I've got a lot of games for that actually.
I've only played a little bit on my Raspberry Pi. There's one particular one called it's Ninja Warrior or something. And
Ninja Ryukenden.
Is it? And the guy he can get like little ghosts
Clones
of himself, yeah.
Yep.
And they sort of jump in the air, and it's a very sort of
Ninja Spirit.
Yeah, Ninja Spirit is the Englishanized version, and that's a really stinking fun game.
It's an excellent game.
You can ramp up all of a sudden just in the first level. If you don't kind of get a waddle on, they just start throwing heaps of dudes at you. But I
don't know if you
sounds
know,
great.
But that game has a Game Boy port.
Oh, really?
It's quite rare. Yeah, and it's really, really good.
As in DMG.
Original DMG.
Okay. I'm going to have to look at Ninja Spirit, huh? Okay, I'll have to look that one up. It's
You
probably
might do
something
better
else.
looking up Ninja Ryukenden, which is Ryukenden.
Okay, I will look that up later.
And yeah, it's a really, really good game. No matter what platform you play on it, I recommend it.
Yeah, and for an 8-bit, like there's a, compared to something like a NES, there was just a sort of a color and just a blend of action and sort of animation.
I don't know how they did it. Like,
yeah,
when you compare the two, it's like, from a technical standpoint, I'm sure someone else would be able to tell you more, but
yeah,
like, just from a gaming perspective, it just doesn't feel the same. Later on in the NES life and the Famicom life, they definitely got a hold of like knowledge on how to use the hardware better, and you can see some of those games that are at the end of the life cycle of the NES definitely feel a lot more refined, and those games will often be really expensive nowadays. Things like Little Samson, what else? Samurai Pizza Cats, Metal Storm, those sorts of games, Bucky O'Hare, all the ones that were really good at the time are all really expensive now because they just play so much better.
Have you ever watched that Netflix series? When we get it here in Australia, it's the anime about the boy that does all the like sort of Street Fighter fighting, and there's a girl that's really rich and she's not allowed to. And
High Score Girl.
Yeah, that one. There's
I did watch that.
Every episode he kind of like, I'm not sure if she lends him her PC engine because she's a rich kid and she's like, it's okay. But he'll go into this like 10-minute kind of like historical historical rant about the console. And
I really love that. Like, I really enjoyed listening to that and seeing all the actual like, almost, it was almost like product placement. Had it not been like stuff that was 25 years old.
Like came out last year or the year before, sort of thing. But a real like passion. It's not like on 20th of blah blah this was made and blah 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 blah. He'd be like, and you can't believe the dual processing of the blah blah, and it's just like
he was playing a PC Engine GT, which is the handheld version of PC Engine. Those things are really, really rare and really expensive.
Well, it was a cartoon, so he could play whatever he wants.
And it did come from a rich girl.
Yeah, that did come. That's right, because she had it under the seat because the her driver's like, don't let your mum see that. Yeah. Your mum sees that, you're in big trouble, Missy. It's a thing. So funny.
Ojo-sama.
The other thing that I know you and I have talked about this before, and I just am blown away, is it's the Star Wars Adventure Game Pack Pocket. So it's a really
arguably the best Australian exclusive we've received.
I just find it so hard to believe it's Australian exclusive. I don't doubt you. I understand, but it's like, I just feel like they were just testing the waters. Like, let's see if those dumb Aussies or whatever, let's see if they'll take this and see how it goes. And maybe it kind of went okay. But I love on the front, so it says like contents, Game Boy Pocket, Star Wars game, 2 AAA batteries, and a lifetime warranty. You hardly hear that anymore. But there's also like this really cool sort of round gold sticker, and it says bonus 6 AAA batteries inside for hours of free fun. Like, my gosh. So is there anything about the actual Pocket that makes it specific?
No, it is. I mean, you can do a lot of research into serial numbers and things like that. Like when you're trying to define limited consoles, a lot of people have put a lot of work into that sort of stuff and looking in specific serial numbers and serial number ranges and things like that. As far as I know, no one has determined the ranges for that release. And so it's just a standard silver Game Boy Pocket.
Right.
But it comes in its own hard case with all the inserts specific to
the kind of clear one
release. Yeah.
I mean, let's be totally frank. I saw one of these the other day because when I saw yours, I was like, whoa, I might kind of need that. And the one that I saw on eBay, which was in a box much more faded than yours. Yours has got a little rubbing around the corners, but the colors are still there. The one I saw looks like it's
very vibrant.
It looks like it's sat in the shop window for about 10 years, and it was around $1,500 Australian. And I was like, I don't need it that much. That's fine. Holy
Yeah, I'll just
cow.
print out a picture of it and put it in my display case instead.
Yeah. Or just I could print up, like I could get someone to make the box for me and
A mock box. Yeah, that's
yeah,
not a bad
mock
idea,
box and
actually.
just put one in it and sort of go, sure. Man, that's unreal, eh? Like, how did you manage to get hold of that?
There was it's marketplace hunting. It was just being vigilant, always checking marketplace. I get lots of breaks at work, so I would spend my breaks just browsing marketplace
Right.
and seeing what would pop up. And yeah, I saw this turn up locally. It was in an area of Melbourne that my partner drives through. So I was like, oh, might be able to get this.
Yeah.
And it was really popular. So on the day that I went to pick it up, the girl like agreed to sell it to me. But as we were driving out there, she kept telling me that she kept getting offers for like more and more money on what. And she was like, oh, I know I said I'd sell it to you, but I kind of want to be able to pay, like get more money for it.
Yeah. It's
I
a
was like,
tough
yeah,
spot to
that's
be
fair.
in.
But also, you did say you'd sell it to me. So I tell you what, what's the highest offer you'd had for it? And she told me, like, I don't think she was lying. And if she was, like, well played.
Yeah.
But
She has a Game Boy that you want, so she's kind of the boss.
yeah, exactly. And I got there and I said, yeah, I'll match it. I happen to have some extra cash on me. And she was happy to sell it to me. I still got it for a great deal, nowhere near like its resale value now.
Right.
And she had a couple of other things like NES games inside. Because I always ask when I pick up stuff like this. I said, "Oh, do you have any other old games lying around?" And you never know. Sometimes you get lucky and see stuff that they haven't really thought about.
For sure.
Yeah, picked up some other stuff off her as well. So it was a good day, good pickup. And
super jealous. That's cool.
That's what I call finding treasure.
Yeah, that is the definition of buying, sometimes selling, looking for treasure. That is treasure. Super jealous. Yeah, I also see that like within your Instagram, you have quite a few shots of PVMs. So do you have just the one
Would
PVM?
you believe
I actually have several?
At one point, I had 14 at one point.
14 PVMs?
Yeah, I did.
Is this a casino thing? Because that's the ideal place for them to. These days, they obviously wouldn't have a bunch of LCDs, but at one stage, that casino would have been a like PVM gold mine.
Yeah, actually, you're right. The surveillance department, I'm sure, would have had just an absolute, like,
and the best ones too. Like they want to see people are twitching and shit, and
yeah, we need as many lines as possible on these monitors. Yeah, I'm sure they're long gone. They've been auctioned off somewhere many years ago in the transfer to digital. No, I had what did I do? I started off with, I knew that I wanted one because when you get into retro gaming, you find out about this sort of stuff.
Yes.
They were meant to be played on CRT TVs, and the next logical progression is finding out the best kind of TVs to play it on. And those are professional video monitors.
Yeah.
And I found myself a 9-inch Sony PVM, and I really loved it. I was like, oh yeah, man, this is great. And then you get into RGB gaming and seeing what the true potential of like the best signal is for these old consoles.
Do you run SCART to them?
And I do. I run RGB on as many consoles as possible.
Are you just swapping plugs, or do you have a switcher?
I have an absolute mess of plugs. It is disgusting. If you could see what I'm looking at right now, you would be like, it looks like the Swedish spaghetti like Muppet has come in and just thrown cables everywhere.
Chicken in the pot.
Yeah, it's awful. But I have a system, and I know it works. I have a system. The system is, I know what plug is doing what, and I will switch it out.
Yeah, I've got I think my worst kind of crime is, I think in this room there's only 2 PowerPoints.
I've got one.
Right. So in this room I have 2 PowerPoints. I have 2 CRTs, 2 laptops, a 3D printer, 6 consoles, a mobile air conditioning unit, a bunch of those like the 12 cabinets with lighting in them, a lamp, I think it's about it. And that's all coming. So my crime is, and let's be clear, I don't run all of those things at once. And things like
I'm
laptops.
genuinely curious. I don't know how much power I can draw out of my one little outlet without blowing the
It
fuse.
should be 10
I think
amps.
is it 10 amp? Yeah,
In
I don't
Australia, I
really
believe
know.
it's 10 amps. And you'd be surprised once things are up and humming. Like when you turn your big 29-inch screen on, it goes, I'm sure it's sort of like it surges a bit because I know the hairs on my arm sort of like go towards it.
Yeah.
But once everything's running,
feeling. I used to do that all the time.
Yeah. And when you turn it off,
like run your arm hair on
afterglow. Yeah. But like, so I've got probably in this room something like about 5 sort of power boards daisy chained together and all different. They kind of go in one direction and back in the other direction and stuff like that.
Oh, see, that scares me because I have so many like expensive things. I really, really don't want to like blow anything up. And I've got like a really good power board, but it's only got 5 slots on it. Right. So after I plug in my PC and one of my CRTs, I've got something else that's taken up. Yeah, like I've only got, I take it back. It's only got 4 outlets. That's even worse. Goodness. So it doesn't leave me with a lot of options.
So when you're streaming, then it's really just kind of like your PC, your TV you're watching. Is your capture card internal?
Console?
Yeah, a console.
No, it's external, but it's USB powered. So I power that through my PC.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're really just running what's in the room, and like just for that session, really, you can't sort of have any extra stuff running.
Yeah, that's one thing I would like is more power options in this room, and I would have more things running.
You can buy some nice big industrial 10 amp boards that'll have 12 sockets. And the point is that if you're running everything at once, obviously you're going to start kind of creating some large drawer. But you also, unless your house was built in the dark ages, you should have a circuit breaker that's going to go, that's too much. And that's that. If you buy a board that's got the little button in it, that's generally for like an overdraw. So you can everything will just turn off. So I think you'd be pretty safe. It scares me when I plug them in, they kind of little spark. I'm like, whoa, let's go to the next let's go to the next hole. I mean, this is a $6 board, but it's from Bunnings Hardware. It's not like I bought it from a cheap shop, but
you're scaring me. No, I paid like $40 for mine.
Oh, wow.
I have individual switches on mine. I want to make sure that nothing blows up.
Live a little, dude. No, I think you're the
wise. The one out that I got in the hallway is that's the one that sparks when I plug in the heater. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I think you're wise for doing that sort of stuff. Yeah, cool. Well, look, I've really appreciated your time talking about just your collection and stuff. I think we could probably do this for hours just chatting away about, so much. Like I'll just go through my sort of short list of things about Shichia, streamer. You've done some speed running, collecting, obviously, Japan, things like PVMs, Famicom disk systems, a few of the really rarer items. I'm sure that could be a 5-part series on little rare items that you've got tucked away. I love seeing when collectors play. I've already started to meet some people that there's one guy, Gav Nostek, he's been on the show before, and I know that he doesn't poo-poo me for the Everdrives, but he's 100%. If I want to play it, I want to own it. I don't have to own everything, but that's how I want to do it. And
that's how I feel as well until I got to the PC Engine. That's the only Everdrive I own because there's a lot of games on there that I can't justify spending the money on.
Yeah, I've looked at some of the like price charting of PC Engine games. That's like, wowzers. That's like Neo Geo and some. Yeah. So look, I really appreciate someone that has a collection. You're a triple threat. You're a collector and a player. And by streaming, you're giving other people the opportunity to see a game that they might think, I'd love to buy it, but am I going to be really sad and disappointed? If they watch your stream, they might see that game and go, you know what? That's worth it. I want to have that in my collection.
Yeah, they can be sad and disappointed vicariously through me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I love watching streaming because I can watch someone struggle and I can just sit here with my extra bowl of Fruit Loops after dinner and not at all be stressed. I'm just like super comfy. So that's about the time I like streaming. I like watching streaming. All right, buddy. Good. Well, look, we're going to wrap it up in a bit here, but I do like to do a bit of a shout out for someone sort of that I'm enjoying usually the Instagram of and things like that. I'll give you the opportunity as well to kind of, if there's anything you want to sort of highlight. For me, this week is, or this episode is Pocket.Pirates. Now, this guy has got some really cool stuff going on, just lots of good, clean photography and good, clean builds. But something that he's really got going on is these screw kits, which you sort of go, huh? But I think everybody that's going to play with either new screws from a repro shell or old screws from an old Game Boy, they start to deteriorate. The new ones strip out. Now, I'll just put these up and you can sort of ooh and ah a bit. But there's a kit for the MGB, the DMG, the AGB, and the CGB. And these are all Torx screws. I'll put that there. You can have a look. Nice shiny little packet.
The Torx screws are 10 out of 10.
And then on the cover there, you can see the label. And it sort of says here, material A2 stainless steel, contents T6 machine Torx screws, 6x8, 3x6. And then he has the list of like 4 of the by 8 for the outer shell, 2 of the by 8 for the battery area, and 3x6 for the main board. That's for the MGB. So that's a really good way to sort of know that I'm building a beautiful, fresh, if you're going full on rebuilding and you don't want to be dicking around and like forcing screws in, because sometimes you might put a screw in and think that screw's probably not coming back out again. And you don't want to have to be in that position. So I would highly encourage anybody to go check out Pocket Pirates, look at his screw kits. And yeah, I'm going to set there for everything. And I've got some builds in mind that they're all going to go into. And yeah, that's my shout for the week, buddy. So it's your opportunity. I don't like to ambush people, but I do like to give someone the opportunity to plug yourself, anybody you feel deserves or needs or whatever. Or most people sort of just say, I'll just look who I follow. But yeah, the conch is yours.
If you want to hang out and chat about games, come join me on Twitch. Yep. Takogamesaustralia on Twitch.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it. No worries. I enjoy your streams because, like you said, there's like 1,000 people out there probably. Like when Sword and Shield came out, even though I wasn't interested, I kind of went. I was like, this guy's up to that in Sword and Shield, and this girl's up to that in Sword and Shield, and this guy's just trying to catch Magikarp all day. It's like, yeah, if you really love it. But I'm the sort of person that likes to see more variety. And I might just only pop in once every couple of weeks, depending on, whether you're kind of streaming or not.
Depending on real life.
Yeah, that's right. But every time I pop in, you're doing something like, what was the last one? Was it PSP that you were streaming a little while ago?
Yeah.
I was blown away by that. Fun. That was really cool to see. So there's a good variety there.
Sapphire.
Yeah, and that looked like hard work to me anyway.
Oh man, that soundtrack is so good. That's got to be one of my favorites.
Yeah. There's some games out there that there was something on the GameCube or PS2, this crazy shooter where you could switch from like black to white, and if you were black, you wouldn't get hurt by
Ikaruga?
That's it, Ikaruga. And I was like,
yeah, on GameCube.
Right. On my 2090 CRT, it's kind of a little bled out, and even on the 14, it's sort of not quite enough. I would love to, for that game alone, get some.
There's a limited run release of that for the Nintendo Switch. I bought it. If you get a Switch, go get it because it's really cool. Play it HD.
Then you play it on your big fat LCD and have good times. Right. Do Limited Run only do like physical releases, or do they do soft
just physical releases?
Okay, we'll see how we go.
I don't know if it is Limited Run. It's just one of those companies, but they did make one.
I'm thinking about getting one of the pretty easy to get HD adapters for my GameCube, because man, it's just so much to like there. So much to like. I don't want to
use this video if you can't use anything else.
Right. Okay. I'll have a look into that too. Anyway, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic chat.
Thank you for the chat.
That's good. I think you and I will probably chat more. And if you're ever in Brizzy, you ever come up, let me know. There is a lot.
Well, I was supposed to be there right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was supposed to be heading to the Gold Coast yesterday, but unfortunately, here we are.
It is what it is. All right, buddy. Yeah. We have a great rest of your weekend, and you and I will be in touch.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay. Bye.